says there I've been fly fishing for 5 decades, so that means I'm old. Coincidentally, I turned 63 on Saturday and I got my fly rod on my 13th birthday. So
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to talk about sight fishing. What is it, how it differs from other forms of fly fishing. So for me, sight fishing is finding your fish first and then presenting the fly to the fish, rather than fishing in water and searching water with the fly. It's not a big numbers game, this sort of fishing. It's hard work because you're trying to find a free swimming fish, but it's very addictive and it's good fun and all those sorts of things. There's nothing wrong with searching the water with a fly. I do that all the time, but I'm only going to talk about the sight fishing today. What I'm going to talk about, they're not rules, they're just my observations. It's just things that I've seen. You might have a different view, let me know. The great thing about fly fishing is we keep learning. And within sight fishing, there are different sort of disciplines, so I'll touch on those a little bit as well. I've thrown in a few photos because sometimes a picture tells 1,000 words and that's really helpful. For context, I spend 4 or 5 months of the year there, right in the middle of Tasmania. And that's where the sight fishing for me probably started. But now I've moved up here, I'm turning that into a saltwater pursuit. And I guess my theory or my thinking is that there's not, the fish are different, but it's the fundamentals aren't, right? So that's a busy slide. So the first discipline, and my favourite, is wade polaroiding. So that's wading with polaroids on. And if you look at the basics, a good hat and sunnies, good polaroid sunglasses. I like a wide brimmed hat because I hate the light coming in here. It just drives me bonkers, and I think a wide brimmed hat helps eliminate that. If you can, you wade into your shadow. So you have the sun up high, sun's behind you, wade into your shadow, looking for movement. That's what I'm trying to do. If there's a wave, and I like a wave, and if it's a northerly, it's flowing this way, and you have it's almost like a one-way view. You look in the back of the wave, you follow the wave, and you hopefully see fish. And for whatever reason, I can't quite work it out. It's hard for the fish to see you under those circumstances. The trouble is, those conditions are rare. So it's always a compromise. You need to find the best compromise on what you're seeing and which way you have to walk and which way you have to fish. I do like the wind. I prefer a day like that than a flat calm day. The fish are just too spooky when it's flat calm. And you'll see there, that's very shallow, that's ankle deep. Fish your feet first, it's an old saying, that's what you would look for. There is cloud there at the back, but that'll burn off, that's just a low island mist. I never really wade much more than calf to knee deep because you want height. It's really about eliminating glare. That's what the polaroids do, that's what the hat does. If you're wading out here, you're too low in the water, you can't get that penetration, so you don't need to go too deep. One of the tricks that you can do is a 360. I was saying before that it's a bit of a compromise, you never get the perfect conditions. You just would wade out, spin around, go, oh, I can see better that way, walk that way. If you can't, you just have to make the most of it. And the other thing I'd mention is you rarely walk in a straight line. You zigzag. So if you walked in a straight line, you might do 400 metres, but if you zigzag, you do 800 metres. So you've got more chance to see fish. This is a real sight fishing. You need a blue sky. You need a sharp shadow, lots of sun. Time of day is important, between 9 and 4, when the sun's high. There's still sight fishing, obviously, half an hour before first light and half an hour after last light. But this is wade polling, it's a bit different. Expect to do a few kilometres because you're hunting fish. So it's not a static pursuit. You do, in that lake there, it's Lake Ada. You'd walk around the back shore. There's another lake that I drop into. You're probably going to do maybe 8 kilometres, 12 kilometres. The thing with sight fishing, the fish are very difficult to see and you need to be ready. They'll be onto you pretty quick. So be ready, you've got 3 or 4 seconds, you've got to make the shot. You can't see a fish and sort of untangle your line, strip line up, it'll be gone. Right. So be ready, be quick, and you want to be reasonably accurate. So a metre in front of the fish, so if the fish is cruising, you drop the fly a metre in front of it. Easy to say, a bit harder to do, but that's what you're trying to achieve. If you need to make a cast, because sometimes you just can't, you need to get the accuracy and the distance, make a few false casts, but not endlessly, you'll spook a fish. I'd suggest, this is a difficult one, always watch the fish rather than the fly. So if you see, and I'm talking trout line here, but if you see a fish cruising and you put your fly to it, the fish will react to that fly if it's seen it or felt it. So that's, and I've never seen, I can't anyway, if you're fishing a tiny fly in that wave, it's very hard to see. So I'd stick with watching the fish, watch its reaction. This is one of the great things about sight fishing is almost on the fish's dinner table, you watch it react, you watch it come over, you watch it eat the fly, so it's really good stuff. This is very much a short to medium distance game. We're not doing long shots. So what's that in terms of length? It's, I don't know, it varies on from day to day, water to water. But you'd say maybe a rod length to 4 rod lengths, that's the kind, maybe 5. So it's not long, double hauls, nothing like that. If a fish is on the flat and it's cruising, it's there to eat, so it's looking for food. So you're in with a shot, you've got a really good chance of catching fish. And that's why it's nice to be a metre in front, but if you're 2 metres in front of the fish, and you're watching the fish and it reacts to the fly, leave it there. The fish will find it and eat it. The fish ID, what do they look like? They don't look like fish to start with, because you're trying to look on the outer limits of your effective vision. And this gets a bit obscure, but look like a rolling flicker, which is essentially just a shadow on the bottom. If you see that, lock onto it until you either confirm it's a fish or discount it, and then if it's a fish, cast to it. If it's not, keep looking. It varies how the lake, what the lake bottom looks like, time of day, time of year. In other words, a fish you fish 2 days and they look a bit different each day. But really the main things are movement, shape, colour, and even position, because a trout and other fish too will take up a certain position based to wind or current and those sorts of things. So if they're not cruising, so if they're not moving, shape, colour and position can be really good indicators. And I've found with the salt, now bone fishing is probably the most similar, but whiting on the flat. So any fish that's in a shallow environment, knee deep flat, and I've repeated this a few times in the slide, but it's the method rather than the species of fish. So it could be a trout here, there could be a permit somewhere else, a bonefish or whatever. That's probably my favourite style of fishing, all sorts of fly fishing. That lake there, that's at a freshwater beach. So we do the same style of fishing usually. That's Stoomers Creek with Duncan. So we pulled in there one day, the water's crystal clear. We went pole, we've got some brim. But it's not that different between the salt and the fresh, to be honest. Probably in the salt, you see more flickering, more flashes. Bottom shot there, that's just a trout laying on the rocks. Easy to see. But if they're crude, in that sort of, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's rocks, there's shadow, there's weed. They can be hard to pick up. But this beach here is just, it's a hot spot for trout. And it's really hard bottom, it's really lovely fishing. And that's Lake Ada. So, these are very similar, but there's also pole rotting out of the boat, so you don't need to be wave pole rotting. The difference with boat is wind, at the mercy of the wind. And that determines the drift, because you can't drift into a breeze, you drift with it. I guess tide is an influence in the salt, but I don't know too much about that. So if I'm fishing a lake, first thing I do is work out where the breeze is and pick a bank to drift along it. Use the electric motor to keep me off the bank. If the breeze isn't too stiff and I need the light, sometimes the breeze pushes you into the glare, you can't do much about that. If the breeze is light though, I'll use the electric to go the opposite way. And you can get nice slow motoring and you'll still pick up fish that way. If there is no breeze and you want to make something happen, the electric motor will take it on quite nicely. But for trout, I guess boat polaroiding, you're looking for slicks and froth lines and anything that might hold insects. And I guess in the salt you're looking for gutters, flashes, weed beds, rocks, something with structure and whatnot. When I fish out of my boat, I'll do shallow or deep. So if I get the right breeze, I know where to find the fish. I'll hang maybe 20 metres off the bank, let the boat drift through. You can drift for kilometres and pick off fish. It's a really nice and easy way to fish, really. There's also the deep water stuff, so you can still polaroid fish in 20 metres of water, trout, but they're up the top. And if they're up the top, they might only be 30 centimetres under the surface. They're looking mainly for gum beetles or terrestrials and those sorts of things, but also there's other insects that have come from, hatched from the water, which are midget caimans. It's still nice to have a blue sky, but it's not as critical as the wave polaroiding. And for us, the way I've found the saltwater stuff, and the fish that we've targeted bastard, golden trevally, giant trevally and permit. But I guess you're in a boat, you're in a shallow, all that stuff really, what we're trying to do in the salt, and you just pick it flat, try and find maybe an ambush point or currents and channels meet, and that's an obvious point where fish will migrate and come into. Bank polaroiding, again, you're not waiting, you're on a bank, it's a lot more difficult in terms of line management where your line can get tangled, so you just need to slack out that particular rod, a bit of slack off the reel, and just be surprised how much line you can have loosely through the snake guides. So you might have your fly in this hand, just a loop of line, and you're ready to make a shot. With bank polaroiding, they're in close, so they are a rod length or 2 rod lengths out. Wind is good. A strong wind can be really good as long as it doesn't get too dirty and you'll find fish in close, because they're in there, it's all stirred up, fish are in there looking for food. With trout, brown trout in particular, they'll do a beat. So you might get to a bank and you just see a fish cruising off. Don't chase it, just sit there, wait there, it'll come back. So you can set up a bit of an ambush for the trout. Banks, if you can get something with an undercut and knee-deep water, so in other words, if you stood off the bank and hit this deep, you'll get fish cruising in very, very closely. So again, if you think about a high tide, maybe, I don't know, water's pushing into mangroves and things like that. I mean, I've caught bream, golden trevally, pike and mullet. It's just whatever the fish is there really, but it's all looking for the fish first. So that shot there, the wind's, there's a slight breeze and it's pushing me into the glare. And when I was talking before, I said, look, you don't really get a perfect day. And that's an example of it, but the light's still good. You see fish in the shallows, they're fish. Here, the little white flecks, that's a froth line that's broken up, so there's insects in there. So you find them, fish swirling around. And that was the dart that we caught at Harvey Bay last month. You can see that's just an enormous flat, it just was endless. So we just drifted and drifted, didn't really know what we were doing, but we still saw fish and caught fish. But in those scenarios, it's very hard to see at that size, or I found it hard. But you'd see a flash or a spray of bait, you'd fish a deeper gutter. It was pretty effective. That's another Harvey Bay fish, shallow water. That's Inskip Point. Really enjoy fishing at Inskip. And on that trip, about this time, probably 2 or 3 years ago, there was juvenile tail, and you could sight fish those, they're little scrappy things, but it was good fun. But as a sort of a saltwater flat weight pole, I really enjoyed fishing in Skip. Some good flat eating as well. That's boat pole rooting up around Turkey Beach. That's a bar. I don't know what the bastards are really called. That's what we try and find the right rubber on the bottom, and you can see them, and you just boat pole running for those. That's Duncan with a tuna. Gavin can talk about tuna. He's more experienced than that, but I had a photo, so I thought I'd put it in. Look, I'll go through these ones rather quickly. So because there are saltwater equivalents to tailing fish, so fish that are tailing, they come in, if it's a trout, it's usually associated with low light, rising water, so dawn, dusk, and the fish will come, that particular photo there, you can see the green grass and the water's actually rising, I think you can see it, but that bay, that's what Brock's Bay, that particular bay has been high and dry, dusty. There's nothing on it for years. For some reason, hydro, it filled up, we had a lot of rain, and of course, it fills up, all the worms and grubs and whatever else get washed out, and the trout come in and feed heavily on that. There'd be, on dust, there'd be a fish every 3 or 4 metres. They just come in en masse. It's still hard to catch. But I think last year was similar, not that particular spot. So you think dawn, dusk, low light, but I had times out in the Western Lakes where it was bright sun and the fish were in water that was 15 centimetres deep. This is more of a patience game, so you will do kilometres, but you're not walking miles and miles. You get to a spot like that at 6 o'clock at night, because it's still light down there, and just wait for the fish to come in. You need to be accurate. It's very hard to determine when a trout has taken a fly, because unless it's a dry fly where they actually rise and take it off the surface, if it's a wet fly like a clouse or a crazy Charlie or something, because we're not stripping, we're leaving it inert and we're trying to work out when the fish has taken it in low lights. You can grease the leader, you'll see it will float on top and it will dart under once the fish has taken it. But sometimes a fish can come in and they might be feeding on different, like tadpoles or something, like fish, and they're charging around, they're a lot more obvious, but mostly it's pretty subtle and pretty difficult. In my experience, the saltwater thing, when I look at when I caught bonefish that have been tailing, as well as golden trevally, I know probably you're whiting, they're shallow water, I know they're chasing prawns or shrimp, but any of that sort of skinny water stuff, it could be a bream, it could be whatever, it's usually around dawn or dusk. In Tas, so that's James River, there's a heap of water that year, spills out into all this stuff. That's where the trout, they're all over the place, but they'll come in and hunt in these water that's only 30 centimetres, 20 centimetres deep. That's Lake Sandy. Again, they'll come in on that fresh grass, you look for them. They're both blue sky days, and I'll go and follow it if it's good weather. And that's not so much for the trout, but the background. It's that green, grassy, mossy water coming up over it that's what you're looking for. Rising fish, so if you're not from a trout background, so and I'll put bass in Saratoga because I remember you were talking about bass might eat dragonflies, grasshoppers or whatever, but if you're not from a trout background, the fly fishing started by trying to imitate insects. So a mayfly in particular, so I'll hatch out, rise to the surface of trout eggs, it takes it from the top. So I leave a ring, if you like, where they've eaten the insects. So this is the kind of activity that we look for as well. So you can have the blue sky day, but still sight fishing because you're looking for rising fish, you're not casting until you've seen rising fish. I would suggest that I get down to Tassie in October, there'll be hatches on. There's different hatches at different times of the day, different times of the year. You get to know them, you know where to go. Put this photo in there, that's a classic froth line, that frothy line right along the bank. That's where you're bound to find a fish, because there'll be ants or mayflies or something that get caught in that froth and the trout know about it. The things you look for the wave pattern or where a fish has risen. You might look for bird activity. You still get bird activity where there might be swallows or seagulls or even crows, and currawongs eating insects. It varies. As I say, there'll be, if you get down, it'll be a frosty morning and there'll be midge, and then later in the day there'll be mayflies, and then in the afternoon it can be gum beetles or something. And I think I'd be keen to really, I've fished Barumba a couple of times, but I don't know it enough. It wasn't clean, the water, so I don't know who fishes it, whether it's always dirty. But we caught Saratoga, which we've done again. But I'd imagine along those lilies, it just might be nice to Polaroid and see what comes along those and hit it with, well, I'd look at a big grasshopper, see what certain times of the year, not in the winter. So that's a rise form right along the bank. That's an easy one to see. Sometimes when it's ripply, you get, it almost looks like a thumbprint. It's just a difference of wave pattern that's changed, and you just want to get fly towards it. That's a mayfly. For those that don't know, that's just a box of flies. But the mayflies, they would hatch, I call it happy hour between 2 and 3. You just want to be on the water at that time. But really, they can hatch at 9 AM, 9 PM, but really it's a good age to be on the water about, I usually on the water all day. But I don't leave it 2. I always hang around till at least 3, maybe 4, just waiting for a hatch. So.
Maybe 6.
So that's kind of it. That last photo is just bank Polaroiding. So that's, I was saying, an undercut and depth. That's a beautiful bank to fish. And I think to me, the whole deal about it, it's a hard way to fish. It's hard to see a free swimming fish. But that's where the rewards lie. It's hard work, you catch one, you're happy. You can go out, that's what's called the Western Lakes. You can wander out there, you can do a 15 or 16 kilometre day, 6 fish, you get a shot at 4 of them, you hook 2 and land 1 and go, that was crazy. But it's because of its challenges and because it's so visual, and because you see the reaction all the way through. So you see the fish, you see it react to your fly, then hopefully it comes over and eats it. Even if it's a rejection, even if the fish turns away, it's still exciting. So that's the $5 version of sight and fishing. It's the one thing I've found since coming onto the Sunshine Coast, there's a lot of it here. Whether it's the whiting on the flats, probably the difference with trout, they're more solitary, so it's one fish, where here you might get a school of fish, but you might see the flashes or a spray of bait. There's something around that's worthwhile covering. And then if you're fortunate enough to have a boat and you get out to Harvey Bay or to Turkey Beach, then really you're up in that sort of world class permit stuff and big goldens and GTs and those sorts of things. So that's my, as I say, short version of it. Each one of those disciplines you can go into depth and layers and all that sort of stuff. Tailing fish, for example, there's people who would say, oh, unless they're on amphipods or this or that, they get bogged down in the detail. Fly fishing is done when it is a journey to simplicity, and you've just got to keep it that way. So if anyone's got any questions, fire away, otherwise it's done.
Thank you. That's good, Mark. So good.
My experience with sight fishing up in Northern Territory when we lived up there, where we Douglas Daly Hot Springs and Barrows in the ponds, and seen a lot of people fishing, so I spent a good part of the day just getting low and casting to them and then hiding behind trees, and took a while, but eventually I got a couple of small ones, good fun. And then yellow water billabong as well, like in the boat you just cruise along, and it was the end of the dry, so there wasn't a lot of oxygen in the water, so they weren't eating, so you like literally just put the lure on its nose and it just wouldn't touch
Didn't we
it.
try lollies because nothing
Yeah,
was
we
working?
tried lollies and in the end actually I didn't fly fish when I was living up there, which I regret now, but I had a buzz bait, like a surface lure, and I had a ping thing fly and I attached the fly onto the back of the lure and that got the reaction out of it. But yeah, I do love sight fishing.
That's a good point, because sometimes I mean that is to put your flying meter in front of the fish. Some days you have to put it right on their nose, and sometimes it needs 3 meters. The fish will tell you on the day, but in general, you'd start off with a meter in front and
Good,
work
yeah.
out from there. And look, for me, it's not really the fish so much as the way you do it that I love.
Yeah.
So it can be a little whiting on a Crazy Charlie or something, or it can be a permit, or it can be a juvenile marlin or whatever. It's all becomes, I don't know, childish or something. I don't know, I really enjoy it, and I'm sure when the conditions are right and there's fish around, and people will get a kick out of it, like big fishes for the whiting. It's pretty challenging fishing, and I love it. All right,
Very good.
happy?